beautiful people, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about transversals and parallel lines. This is going to be your notes for this section. This is a review for my class, but I do want to go over a couple things of how to remember these names. So there's going to be two things that I'm going to be talking about. First thing are questions. Actually, both of them are questions. If you watched my introduction video to angle relationships, then you will know what these two questions are. Question number one is, what do we have? Question number two is, what does that mean? If you are able to answer these two questions, and now question number two does repeat quite frequently, but if you're able to answer these two questions, then you are going to be successful in this section on this content that you are required to know. As always, disclaimer, I am human, so if I make a mistake, I apologize. Just let me know where the mistake occurs so that way I can learn from my mistake and you can learn from my mistake as well, so that way you don't end up making the same mistake as I do. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is talk about parallel lines. Now, parallel lines are lines that have the same slope, therefore they will never touch. So parallel lines so they have the same slope, and they will never touch, ever, ever, ever. Because they have the same slope, their rise over run is exactly the same. So literally they will never cross, they will never touch each other. They are just perfect, identical, the same. So whenever you see parallel lines, what's most likely going to happen is in the instruction, you're either going to see, given these parallel lines, so sometimes they will tell you in the directions that you have parallel lines, or if they don't tell you that they are parallel lines, you have to have these little tick marks, little arrow tick marks to show that they are parallel lines. So if they do not tell you in the directions or they don't show you these little tick marks, you cannot assume that they are parallel lines. You have to have been given that information. So if you have parallel lines, and that is told to you, we're going to now cut them by a transversal. So here's our parallel lines. I'm going to put my little tick marks. I'm going to cut through these parallel lines with a transversal. Okay. And a transversal just cuts these parallel lines at one particular angle. The angle doesn't move, doesn't change. So transversal cuts through our parallel lines. Okay, so we have parallel lines. We have a set of parallel lines cut by a transversal. Now, when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, you're going to notice that there are 4 angles that are created on one of each parallel line. So what I mean by that is, here you go, you have your parallel lines. It is cut by a transversal. There you go. And you have angles. For example, you have angle 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 4 here, 4 angles created here, and then you have 4 angles created on the bottom. So for a total of 8, but 4 on each. So these angles, because they are attached to 2 parallel lines that are the same, we have some relations, okay? We have some things that are similar. We have some things that are exactly the same. So the easiest way to think of it, what's going to be congruent to what, is if you take the bottom, pick it up, and put it on top of the top one, you're going to notice that some angles are going to be on top of each other. So for example, if I pick this up and put it here, that's going to be 1 and 5 are going to be on top of each other. 6 and 2 are going to be on top of each other. 7 and 3 are going to be on top of each other. And 8 and 4 are going to be on top of each other. Again, copy, paste. This section is going to be on top of this section. And so that's actually leading into our first, what do we have? And that's going to be corresponding angles. So the first thing you need to know is corresponding angles. Okay, I'm going to color code this. So what do I have? So if I have 1 is on top of 5, again, if we're going to cut and paste, if 1 is on top of 5, they are corresponding angles. If 2 is on top of 6, 2 and 6 are corresponding angles. If 7 is on top of 3, those are corresponding angles. And if 4 is on top of 8, those are corresponding angles. So I'm going to list them out. Corresponding angles, I'm going to put actually here off to the side. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. Basically, again, if we cut and paste, what are going to be on top of each other? Angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding. Angle 3 and angle 7. And angle 4 and angle 8 are all of these are corresponding. 1 and 5 are corresponding. 2 and 6 are corresponding. 3 and 7 corresponding. 4 and 8 are corresponding. Okay, so corresponding angles share the same location. Okay, so if 1 is top left, if I copy and paste, 5 is going to be top left. So corresponding angles, what do we have? What does that mean? For corresponding angles, location is the same. So what do we have? Corresponding angles. What does that mean? It means the location of that angle is the same. And what does that mean when the location is the same? That means angles are congruent. And what does it mean to be congruent? It means equal in measure. And so what does that mean? That means that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 5. The measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 6. Measure of angle 3 is equal to the measure of angle 7. Measure of angle 4 is equal to the measure of angle 8. So if we know what the measure of angle 1 is, then I can absolutely 100% say that it is the same measure as angle 5. They will equal each other. So that's corresponding angles. I'm going to go ahead and change a sheet of paper. Actually, I do have room. Never mind. I'm going to just scooch it forward. There we go. We have space. Okay. Again, what do we have? We're going to have two parallel lines cut by a transversal. Now, it doesn't matter which direction the transversal cuts. You're still going to have your 4 angles. And so I'm going to actually talk about, we have corresponding angles, and now I'm going to talk about consecutive angles. So there's going to be 2 with C's. Now, consecutive angle is also sometimes called same side inside angles, but the formal terminology for same side inside is consecutive interior angles. Okay, so what are consecutive interior? Let me actually write the name. Okay, first thing, keyword or key section of it is interior. And so what does interior mean? I'm going to show you a little trick, and I'm going to have you create a bubble. Change markers. I'm going to have you create a bubble on the inside. So you have a parallel line, 1 and 2. You have on top of the parallel line and on top. So if we create a bubble, here's our bubble. Interior means inside the bubble. And it's also kind of like you're eliminating things when you're trying to figure out what do you have. So first off, what do we have? We have something that's interior, so we have something that's inside. So we know our angles are going to be inside the bubble. Now consecutive means one after the other. For example, consecutive numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because those numbers come one right after the other. Consecutive letters are A, B, C, D, E. Consecutive days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so forth. Okay, so one comes after the other. So another name for consecutive interior are also known as same side interior angles. So in my class, we use consecutive interior angles. In other classes, they use same side. It is easier with same side, but that is not the formal name of it. But if that helps you, go ahead. So same side, inside. So same side, interior, which means inside the bubble. And we're on the same side of the transversal. So when it's talking about same side of the transversal. So the angles are not opposite each other. So if I have, let's call this angle 2. And let's say we have angle, let's call this angle 3 to keep it the same as above. So angle 3 and angle 5 are both on the inside of the bubble, and they're both on the same side same side of the transversal. So consecutive interior angles or same side interior angles, what does that mean? It means same side of transversal and inside the bubble. And so what does that mean? What does that mean if you have angles that are inside the bubble and on the same side of the transversal? That means the angles are supplementary. What does it mean to be supplementary? That means angles add to 180 degrees. Remember, supplementary, you want supper, so you want a lot of food, so it's the bigger angle. Complementary is they are giving you a compliment, which means they are always right. So angles add up to 180. So what does that mean? That means the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 5 equal to 180 degrees. All right, just a couple more. I'm going to move a little bit quicker on the other ones now. So we talked about corresponding angles. We talked about consecutive interior angles. So then we have, let me draw these out first. Next one we have, let's do alternate exterior angles. Oh, you can't see that. So alternate exterior angles, what does that mean? Alternate means they are on the opposite side of the transversal. So opposite side of the transversal. Exterior means outside the bubble. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's back up just a little bit. Here's our bubble. Here's our inside. We don't want it on the inside, so we want it on the outside. They're on the opposite sides of the transversal and outside the bubble. So if this angle right here, let's call this angle 7, is on the left side of the transversal. Here's your transversal. We want the opposite, so then it's going to be on the right-hand side, but it's still on the outside. So that is angle 2. So we have angle 2 and angle 7. We can also have, again, if this one here is 8, then opposite, so it's on the left-hand side, but still on the outside, that's going to be angle 1. Okay, so then what do we have? We have alternate exterior angles. What does that mean? It means they are on the opposite side of the transversal and on the outside of the bubble. What does that mean? That means they are congruent. What does it mean to be congruent? It means they are equal, angles are equal in measure. And what does that mean? In this case, it means the measure of angle 7 is equal to the measure of angle 2, and the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 8. All right, let's do another one. Given our two parallel lines, cut by a transversal. And the next one we're going to talk about is alternate interior. So again, alternate interior. Interior means inside the bubble. So here's your bubble. Alternate means on the opposite side of the transversal. So what do we have? Alternate interior angles. What does that mean? It means on the opposite side of transversal. Opposite side of the transversal and inside the bubble. What does that mean? That means they are congruent. What does it mean to be congruent? It means angles are equal in measure. And so what does that mean? Well, let's back up just a little bit and figure out which angles are in fact alternate interior. So again, alternate means opposite side. Interior means inside the bubble. So if I have this right here, let's do angle 1. Just kidding. This was angle 3. That's angle 3, and that's a little messy, so I'm going to erase that and make it better, make it prettier. Angle 3, and again, we want opposites. So opposite on the opposite side of the transversal, and then I'm actually going to add to that if up, go down. I don't know if you can see that. If up, go down. So what I mean is this one's up, so we're going to go down and opposite. So this angle is, what angle is this? This is angle 6. So 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles. So again, so angles are equal in measure. So what does that mean? Measure of angle 3 is equal to the measure of angle 6. And then another ones we can do is angle 4 and angle 5. So the measure of angle 4 is equal to the measure of angle 5. Okay, so what have we done so far? We have done corresponding. We have done alternate interior, we have done alternate exterior, we have done consecutive interior, alternate exterior, consecutive. So I think we're gonna wrap up. We have 4 so far. Just a review. Let's throw in a review. We also have vertical angles. Again, vertical are angles that are across from each other. So let's call this angle 1 and angle 2. And I'll write this. We also have let's call this 1 and 2 again. This and this, oh, you can't see. Let me shift this up. There we go. So here we have, let me change markers, vertical angles. These are vertical angles, and then vertical angles are congruent. And that means they are equal in measure. Measure. So what does that mean? That means measurement of angle 1 is equal to the measurement of angle 2. I'm actually going to change these numbers here so that way we're not confused. So let's call this 3 and 4. This one here, what do we have? We have complementary. That's an L. That's a pretty long L. Complementary angles. And so when they're complementing, when someone is complimenting you, they are always right. So that means you have a right angle. And so complementary angles is what do you have? What does that mean? That means angles add to 90 degrees. So what does that mean? That means the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 are equal to 90 degrees. Next one we have are, what do we have next? Let's do linear pair. Now for a linear pair angles are angles that form a line. So let's call this 5 and 6. So what do we have? Linear pair. So 5 plus the angle of 6. So what does it mean to be a linear pair? They are supplementary. What does it mean to be supplementary? It means angles add to 180 degrees. So what does that mean? That means the measurement of angle 6 plus the measurement of angle 5 equal to 180 degrees. All right, guys, let me try that again. All right, everyone. This wraps up your angles on parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. You have to have these memorized. If you're going to excel in this section of your math, you have to have these memorized. Always focus on your 2 questions. What do we have? What does that mean? And keep answering. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Make flashcards out of these. They're great to have flashcards. Understand every single keyword. Keywords are very strong in this section. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm always available to you. As always, thank you so much for watching these videos. Like, share, and subscribe. Again, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching my videos, and I'll see you next time.